Carlos Alcaraz is having a rough time, and boy, it's starting to show. The young Spaniard, who just last year was the golden boy of tennis, seems to be stumbling at every turn down under. Yesterday, he got a good old spanking from Novak Djokovic during a training session. Today, it was Alex de Miñaur who handed him another L during an exhibition match. Yeah, it's just practice, but the message is clear. Carlitos has a mountain of work ahead before the Australian Open kicks off this Sunday. The wait for the new tennis season has been long and painful, but finally, we're back in action. While the official matches of the Aussie Open won't start until Sunday, Melbourne is already buzzing with tennis. The qualifiers are in full swing, and the big dogs of the ATP are warming up, testing the waters and smacking balls around to find their groove. On Wednesday, it was Alcaraz versus de Miñaur on center court, giving fans a sneak peek at what's to come. Unfortunately for Carlitos, it wasn't the fairy tale start he might have hoped for. Let's set the scene. Alcaraz rolled in with a bruised ego after losing a practice set to Djokovic the day before. This match against de Miñaur was supposed to be his redemption arc. Spoiler alert. It wasn't. The preseason tweaks and changes to his game are clearly backfiring, and the guy is struggling to adapt. Sure, he's making changes that could pay off later in the year, but right now, they're more like a curse than a blessing. Now, let's talk about the match itself. While the atmosphere was light-hearted and full of laughs, make no mistake, neither player wanted to lose. De Miñaur came out swinging, and Carlitos? Well, he was swinging too, but with about as much precision as a drunk throwing darts. His forehand, usually his bread and butter, was all over the place. When it worked, it was like a bazooka. When it didn't, it was like a broken slingshot. And let's not even get started on his backhand. It was practically non-existent. De Miñaur comfortably bagged the first set 7-5. In the second, Alcaraz managed to pull himself together somewhat. He tightened up his game, started serving better, and took the set 6-4 to even things out. The decider? A 10-point tiebreak. And here's where things went from bad to worse. Carlitos, nursing a blister on his thumb, crumbled like a stale cookie, losing 10-6. Sure, it was just an exhibition, but the writing's on the wall. Alcaraz has got some serious work to do if he wants to make a splash in Melbourne. The bigger picture isn't much rosier either. It's been way too long since Alcaraz could look at the ATP rankings and see his name at the top. The last time he held the number 1 spot was August 28, 2023, over a year ago. Since then, Jannik Sinner has been running the show, racking up 31 straight weeks as the king of tennis. To make matters worse, Alcaraz isn't even the second best player on the list right now. Dreaming of reclaiming the throne? That's gonna take some serious hustle. Sinner's lead isn't just significant, it's a bloody fortress. Add to that his rock-solid consistency last season, and it's clear why the Italian isn't budging anytime soon. For Alcaraz, the road back to the top is more like a treacherous uphill hike than a smooth ride. But hey, crazier things have happened in tennis. Let's see if Carlitos can find his mojo and make us believe in miracles again. Fingers crossed, but don't hold your breath. Let's cut to the chase. Carlos Alcaraz has everything it takes to be the king of the ATP rankings. We're talking about a player who's got the firepower, the guts, and the potential to make Jannik Sinner sweat bullets. And honestly, it's not some pie-in-the-sky dream that he could close the gap in the coming months. The numbers are there to back it up. Sinner might be chilling at the top with a 4,820-point cushion before the season even kicks into high gear, but that throne isn't as untouchable as it seems. First things first, Sinner has the luxury of walking out of the Australian Open 2025 as the world number 1, no matter what. Yep, even if he tanks spectacularly, he's still leaving Melbourne with that crown. But here's the kicker. He can't add a single point to his tally down under. Nada. Zilch. Any loss, whether it's in the early rounds or even the final, will take a chunk out of his lead. Meanwhile, Alcaraz? He's got a golden opportunity to chip away at that lead and put himself in prime position to strike. Let's talk strategy for Carlitos. The Spanish phenom has a sweet spot in the calendar from now until the start of the clay court season, or more specifically, until Roland Garros. This is the window where he can rack up points and breathe down Sinner's neck. Why? Simple math. Jannik's defending a ridiculous 3,500 points during this period, while Alcaraz only has 1,700 on the line. That's a huge gap, and if Alcaraz plays his cards right, he could make things very interesting. The Indian Wells tournament is the only event where Carlitos can't afford to slip up. Last year, he dominated, so he's got max points to defend. But here's a plot twist. Sinner, thanks to his doping fiasco, had all his points stripped from that event. So now he's got room to gain, which adds a little spice to the mix. Still, compared to Sinner's overall mountain of points to defend, Alcaraz is cruising with a much lighter load, at least until the tour rolls into Roland Garros. Now, zooming out for the bigger picture, things get even juicier. In the clay court season leading up to Roland Garros, Alcaraz only has 200 points to defend. Sinner? He's got a hefty 600-point obligation. This gives Alcaraz another prime chance to close the gap or even leapfrog the Italian altogether. But, and it's a big but, if he doesn't capitalize on this stretch, things get ugly fast. By the time the European summer kicks in, Carlitos will be defending a massive 4,000 points across Paris and London. If he's still chasing Sinner by then, his chances of overtaking him will be slimmer than a tennis racket string. So, what's the takeaway? Reclaiming the ATP throne shouldn't be some be-all, end-all obsession for Alcaraz. Instead, it's more like a carrot dangling in front of him, a real possibility if he can deliver his A-game consistently over the next few months. The gap between him and Sinner should naturally shrink, and with a bit of luck, like Sinner crashing out early in a major tournament, Carlitos might even pull off a cheeky overtaking moment. But let's not kid ourselves. It's going to take a mix of hard work, stellar performances, and maybe even a few Sinner slip-ups to make that happen. Oh, and speaking of surprises, Alcaraz isn't just working on his game. He's tweaking his look, too. That's right, the Mercian prodigy has decided to freshen up his style just in time for the Australian Open. Maybe it's a new haircut, a bold outfit, or something else entirely. Whatever it is, he's out here making sure he's turning heads both on and off the court. Who says you can't serve up style and aces at the same time? Stay tuned, folks. This season is about to get wild. Carlos Alcaraz knows the spotlight is about to burn brighter than the Aussie sun the moment he steps onto the court for the Australian Open. Why? Because it's the one Grand Slam trophy missing from his already ridiculously impressive collection. And he's only how old? Yeah, it's insane. But instead of just focusing on his game, Carlitos decided to mix things up in another way, by switching up his look. Gone is the classic boy-next-door vibe, and in comes a fresh, modern, and unapologetically Latino haircut. It's bold, it's sleek, and it's already got people talking. The internet, as expected, had a field day. Memes? Check. Jokes from his ATP buddies? Double check. By the time he finished his practice match against Alex de Miñaur, the chatter had gotten so loud that Alcaraz had to address it himself. "I talked to my barber about the cut," he laughed. "I knew in 3 days the hair would grow back, so I'll have to go more often to keep it in check. New year, new look, right? Plus, it's summer here in Australia. 40 degrees. I needed something fresh. I tried this style a few years ago, and I liked it. So, why not bring it back?" But here's the kicker. While the haircut might be turning heads, it hasn't exactly turned his fortunes around on the court. In his first match of the year, an exhibition charity game on Melbourne Park's Rod Laver Arena, Alcaraz took an L. He lost to local favorite Alex de Miñaur in 3 sets, 7-5, 4-6, 10-5. Ouch. Not exactly the start he was hoping for just days before the first slam of the year kicks off. Let's break it down. This wasn't just some casual hit around, it was a reality check. The message was clear: 2025 isn't going to be a walk in the park, and it's not just Jan-Nick Sinner who's gunning for him. De Miñaur, a player Alcaraz had beaten twice before, turned the tables this time. Rusty from not playing a match since the Davis Cup finals in November, Carlitos couldn't keep up. Meanwhile, de Miñaur, riding the momentum, outplayed him in the first and third sets. Even his coach, Juan Carlos Ferrero, chimed in during the match, saying, "Carlos is young, and he's got a lot of room to grow." Ferrero emphasized the focus on improving consistency, something that's going to be crucial if Alcaraz wants to reclaim the top spot in the rankings and make this season count. But the grind doesn't stop here. On Friday, Alcaraz will face another Aussie, Alex de Miñaur, ranked 25th, in what's essentially a final dress rehearsal before the slam begins. By then, the draw will be out, and he'll know exactly who stands between him and that elusive Australian Open title. Now, if you're into tennis, and let's face it, if you're reading this, you probably are, don't forget to subscribe and smash that like button. Here at Tennis Extra, we're all about bringing you the best tennis content on the planet. Whether it's deep dive analyses, exclusive interviews, or up-to-the-minute coverage of your favorite players and tournaments, we've got you covered. So join the Tennis Extra community and ride the wave of tennis excitement with us. Because this year's season, it's going to be one hell of a roller coaster. Stay tuned.